Joining me today on Premier Gospel is CRYS. CRYS, welcome to the Latin Selection Show. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Hannah. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for the invite.
So we were just saying it's like 9 a.m. for you, 5 p.m. for me. So we're like opposite sides of the world. And
Mm.
yeah, it's crazy how technology.
Coffee in hand, it's all good.
Argentina, we're really a global little situation
All
right
over
now.
the world. Worldwide, baby.
Exactly. So the first thing that I wanted to discuss with you was your new single RDV with Angie Rose and Samuel Ash. So could you just tell us about how that collaboration came together?
Yeah, well, it was really cool and organic, very natural, unforced, because we've known Samuel Ash for a few years now. Angie Rose, I just met her through this collaboration, but it was so cool that once we got together with Sam, my husband, Abraham Osorio, he's like my main producer for most of my music, if not all of it.
I have a
But in
question
this
about that, don't worry.
Okay, that's coming, right? Just a little foreshadowing here, but we were like, man, we really want to make it a point to collaborate this year. Like this song is a part of an album that's coming for me very soon. And so I want this album to not be just like a sonic representation of me as an artist, but like a fusion of a lot of people in the industry that I just respect and admire. And I just think we're better together, right? So this is kind of an expression of that. And we got together with Sam. We wrote this song in Atlanta in his studio with another writer. His name is Andy Alemani, also a friend. Like we were there for like 3 days and the song happened in 2 hours.
Wow.
So the rest of the time we were just chilling, laughing, eating good food. Like I think that's where the best songs are written, when it's kind of birthed from that relationship and that authenticity and trust, because creating is already like that very vulnerable space, right? So we got together, the song came to life pretty quickly. But once we were like hearing back the demo, we were hyped. Like we were so excited. We were just like, this is the bop, like of the summer. Like we wrote it in October and we were like, this is like a summer bop. It was weird because we were like about to go into, winter and stuff, but we were like, this is something we can release next year summer. So that gives you also perspective of like how much time sometimes goes in between like making a song initially to like getting it all finished up, right? So long story short, we contacted Angie Rose through Instagram DM because that's how we do it these days.
I
And
did the
she
same
was
thing.
really.
Yeah, to get an interview. It's how I get, even you, I think I reached out to you like last year.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. See, well, never underestimate the power of a DM.
Exactly.
Also, fun fact, my husband DM'd me, and that's how we're married now. So I would have never known who he was if he didn't DM me. That's a whole other story. But we DM Angie Rose and we're like, hey, we hear your voice, and it's like we felt like her tone would be perfect. We needed like a rap, but also like someone that can sing, and she could kind of do both. She brought it. She answered immediately. Like I think like a month or two later, she was already in Atlanta recording her part. A few months later, we were in LA recording the video. So it was just amazing, and we're so excited it's finally out in the world.
I love it. So I also want to discuss Lo Primero because that's like one of my favorite songs. I mean, all of your music is honestly, it really resonates and I love it. But like the video, everything, so good. So could you just tell us a little bit more about that track and what it means to you?
Yeah, so Lo Primero is also one of the singles off of my upcoming album. And I loved it because it was like the start of the year. And I just kind of wanted to put out like a message and also just like a refreshing visual and like a very like musical, vibe to start the year. And the song is called Lo Primero, which means the first thing, basically. And it's kind of cool because it's bilingual. So it's like, Solo tú eres lo primero. And then like the response is like, only you are the first thing, So it's just like you get like the little like translation. So a little Duolingo moment. But yeah, I loved starting the year with that perspective of like when we put God first, like that is our starting point. That's how we can advance in life. And so it was cool too to just like record a whole video that captured this performance that I dreamt of. Literally, like I was on a flight and I could imagine like every transition and how, we brought this like Hollywood glam, like old school, like retro, vintagey. I just want the feel of this album to have this nostalgic touch, if that makes sense. Like I'm very inspired by that aesthetic, and so I feel like we're bringing it back with this music, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay, so you've perfectly created a segue into my next question, which is about your creative vision, because the aesthetics, the branding, CRYS, the brand, I'm sold. From like music, like shoots, your outfits, everything. Even your little like lo primero dance on TikTok, like your brand is stronger.
Oh
Um,
my God, we're trying. Thank
yeah,
you.
so
Yeah.
yeah, just like what inspires your creativity and your vision for your
Yeah,
music?
I think creativity is something that we should constantly be cultivating. And for me, that means just like surrounding myself by other creatives. Also, just like intaking that inspiration from Pinterest. Like that's a big one for me. Or like following other people that also are very like visually refreshing in terms of their aesthetic. Also, I have a team that's super creative, and I can't take all the credit because for me, it's one of those things where I have like an initial idea and the transformation and like refining of that.
Mm.
It always takes place in like various conversations and going back and forth. And my manager, her name is Desiree, and she's like my best friend from college. And it's so cool because now we're like both working in the industry together. And she's like my right hand, like outside of my husband being like my producer and also kind of like my manager. Like I'm an independent artist, so I get to build my team and work with the people I love and trust and respect. And I feel like she has really like helped me form my brand and like the aesthetic and all those things like mean so much. I hope she watches this because
Mhm.
we literally will spend hours just to like come down to an idea, a concept, and then we'll start building from there. And we try and keep it very unified and cohesive and be intentional because it's easy to have like I feel like my brain is like I have ideas everywhere and it's not a bad thing. I feel like that's cool to have, but then she helps me like hone it in and like bring that unified brands that which you're talking about, which it's awesome. And my videographer is also incredible, Francisco. He makes all of my videos and does the photo shoots with us, so he's very much in those conversations of like brainstorming and how are we going to like bring this vision to life, how are we going to put it out there. We live in a world of saturated content, so you really have to make something captivating and something purposeful and not just release stuff like as they come. I think the most beautiful and meaningful projects that we've put out are the ones that we've really thought out and like prepared in advance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So now I kind of want to create a timeline for your music, just to introduce people to you. So can you tell us about how you got into music pre-Juntos? Because we'll get to that.
Yeah, so pre Juntos, I actually released my first single in 2017.
Wow.
And then I released my first EP in 2018, Make Up My Mind. The real ones know. And it
Mhm.
was just like an R&B kind of pop fusion, love songs. It was what resonated with me in that moment. But in that whole process of releasing that EP, I got married, I moved to LA, I started, operating more as a songwriter and like music arranger for other people, like working alongside of my husband, who we produce, we translate albums. I remember that first year of marriage, it was like a freaking world tour. Like we went to Peru, Colombia, Mexico, Costa Rica, just all over producing albums for other artists. And we translated elevation worship like projects as well, so we were a part of all those Spanish only albums and just a lot of juggling and a lot of developing other artists. So it was kind of hard for me to really focus on what my sound was to bring to the world and things like that. But 2020 came along, and that was just like the forced pause from this world tour we were on. And finally got to just like sit with myself and with my husband and figure out like what do we want to say. Like we've been out here writing songs for all these people, and it's awesome, and it's something we're still involved doing. But in 2020 we really just sat with the idea, and we were like, there's something here. And so I picked it up again, and I haven't stopped since then, and it's been a lot of fun. That's when during the pandemic we wrote all of the album Juntos. We put it out last year, along with visuals, and then starting off this year with new music and working up to a second album, which is insane.
Okay, so I have a question because you keep mentioning the album. Because I was gonna wait to the end, but I can't wait. So do you have like a date for your album? Do you have a title that you would like to share?
Ooh, so honestly, it's a surprise.
Okay.
And there's a lot of things that are still like cooking. So I
Okay.
don't want to like prematurely share anything, but it's gonna be worth the wait. It's one of those things where like we've done it with time and I'm sitting on a lot of gems right now. And so
I'm
I'm gonna give you little pieces. You know, you already get Lo Primero, you get RDB, you're gonna get maybe, I don't know, one or two more singles, and then boom,
We're just
we're gonna
dropping it.
drop that out. We're just gonna
Where's that
drop it like it's hot. Like, psh.
bitch? So, going back to Juntos, you wrote all the songs on the album, I believe, and then Abraham produced it, and I think he like co-produced, right, with some other people along the way.
Yeah,
So, could you just tell us about the evolution of that, what that body of work means to you, and then maybe just about like a couple of the songs and the experiences that inspired the sound and the lyrics and stuff like that?
for sure. So Juntos was a special album because again, it was a pandemic album. So I think if anything, the pandemic provided the space and the time to really like figure out what we want to do, but also a lot of it was like it was happening and taking form as it was coming together and coming to life. Like the songs kept coming. It wasn't like we were like, let's make an album. Like this year was like, let's make an album. Like the songs were very intentional. But for Juntos, it was really like we wrote Forward, it was the first single, and then we recorded the music video, like literally Abraham on a tripod with his iPhone, and I put it together on iMovie, and then I released Pause, second single, and then it was just like this whole thing of like me talking to my younger self, and I was like, what if we made a music video? And then Desiree, my manager, we wrote out the whole storyline, and like we were out there on set like performing, directing, like doing the whole thing, like DIYing. We did like photo shoots in my front yard, like for just like cover art. And we were trying to figure it out. And then I had this whole branding conversation with Desiree, and I was like, what if we tried to do some Spanish? I write Juntos, which became the title track of the album. And then as we kept going, at first it was going to be an EP, but then I wrote Valena, and then I wrote We All Need Saving, and then I wrote En Tu Mira, and songs just kept coming. I wrote On the Surface, and then ended up asking one of my friends, Teddy Oba. He's also an artist and based here in LA. And I was like, can you sing this song with me? And then I was like, Abe, my husband, was like, my favorite song on the album is We All Need Saving. And then as I was recording my vocal, I was like, can you actually sing this with me? And it ended up becoming like a duet with him. And it was just very organic. Like I just kind of summarized the whole process of it. And as we were recording the songs, I'm very much about recording visuals. So whether that was like an on-set, like full-on production video, or you know, more on a budget where we just recorded on an iPhone, or just like got a friend, hey, can you get some footage of me on the beach, walking on the beach, and then I put together like looping visuals and made lyric videos. Like it was a whole thing. And even talking about it right now, I'm like, how do we do all of that? Like it really just, it takes an army. But my army isn't very big, but we're very mighty. So I'm excited that, you know, we were able to put that out. The turnout was incredible. I feel like it was just like it catapulted me into something new because it was like my initial like break in kind of into like the Spanish market as a solo artist. I had done like some features and some stuff in Spanish with the artist I was telling you I was working with previously, but that album was like my kind of like, hello, I'm here and I'm Latina and now I'm gonna make Spanish music. And you know, I get to work a little bit of both, bring in the English and Spanish and the fusion of all these. Like I grew up in Puerto Rico, you know, so like I want to be able to bring all those sounds that have influenced me throughout my life and not hold back. So I think that's what Juntos meant to me. It was just like me coming into like myself and who I want to be and sound like as an artist.
That's awesome. Who are some of your favorite Spanish artists in the Christian scene?
Ooh, I have to say I love my girl Blanca is amazing, and we've actually been working on some stuff together. So that's
I'm
really
excited for
exciting.
that. I kind of had a feeling. I think I've seen you post about it. Like, yes.
Yeah, I gave you a little gem.
There we
You
go.
pulled it out of me.
Yay.
Top secret. Um, who else? I love, well, I know she's not Spanish, but Lauren Daigle. Like I love what she's been able to do, like as a kind of a crossover artist. You know, I feel like she's amazing. There's a lot of artists like up and coming, like that I've even gotten to work with, like um Un Corazon is like a really big band in Mexico. I feel like their expression, they're a church, so they sing for the church, but they also have like a lot of like pop songs. And Omi Alka, he's a really good friend of mine. Tommy Royale, like I
I
did a
spoke to
song
him
with
yesterday.
him. Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Okay, he's amazing,
Yeah,
a
he's awesome.
sweetheart, like instant family.
Oh,
He's also on my album, and our song is already out there. Ahí estás tú, and he killed that. And so I just feel like it's a lot of friends really that I'm like, yeah, those are my faves, but it's like literally my also people that have become like, you know, my colleagues, but also my friends.
mhm.
But yeah, there's so many good ones. That's such a hard question, but definitely those are like my top ones right now. There's just like so much up and coming like
Mhm.
goodness
Yeah,
happening, so I'm excited.
yeah, I love it. So going back to you and Abraham working together and co-collaborating on songs, what's it like working in partnership with your husband and in marriage? Because it's something that I'm actually seeing quite a lot in our generation, co-leadership and working together, and especially in the music industry actually as well.
Yeah, I think partnership is everything. Like I have a lot of blind spots, right? So like I feel like it's so important to surround myself by people that I trust that also know me, um, and want the best. So for us, it's not about, you know, anything personal or any feelings getting hurt, because me making music is kind of like your baby. Like, and so if somebody comes at you with constructive criticism, it's like saying your baby's ugly, and it's like, yo, hold
Yeah.
up. You know, but it's like, no, it's not like that. Like I know that everybody on my team wants what's best for that, for the project, for the song, for the album. So if there's anything that they're coming with or they're bringing to the table, it's not like a an offense or a threat to what I'm bringing. It's just kind of in the refining. You need to, you know, be refined in the fire, I guess. And so there are a lot of moments of tension where my manager has, you know, an opinion or a way of seeing things. Abe has a way of seeing things. I have a way of seeing things. But I think in kind of that like tug of war, we make the magic happen in every way, because it's a sonic thing, but it's also a visual thing, because we're in a very visual era. So people can sleep on a song if they didn't connect with it in a different way. So it has to be very multi-sensory experience. And I love working with my husband because he's my best friend, and like he knows me, he loves me, and he cares, and he's very invested. So we're both very perfectionists too, and we'll be like, yesterday we were in the studio and we were working for hours just on vocal parts for a song. And it was just like, when I felt like we were done, he was like, no, this isn't right, we need to go back and hear this again, and we need to re-record this. Or he'll spend like hours trying to find the right tone. It's not just the drum, it's the sound of the snare and the tone and the color. So he's like, I'm hearing him listening to all these snares, and I'm like, they all sound kind of the same. He's like, they're not. Like, listen to this one, listen to that one. I'm like, babe, just choose one. He's like, it needs to be the perfect sound. And so I'm like, I'm hungry, let's go. But like, it's like he takes the time because he cares. And then at the end, I could tell. I'm like, you know what, babe, you're right. That snare really hits there. He's like, I told you. But it's just one of those things where you have to be open to collaboration and to partnership, because that will only make the art better. And everything you get to do, if you do it with the partnership of people that love and care for the thing that you're creating, like it's only for the best.
That's amazing. And now outside of CRYS, you work with other artists, like you said. So like I think you've been doing stuff with Becky G, right? And
Mm-hmm.
also like you said, Elevation Worship, like a lot of big names, very well respected.
Yeah. And
Um
a lot of different platforms,
yeah,
right? Like you
exactly.
have Elevation Worship, which is like one of the biggest like worship movements, but then you have Becky G, that's like a Latin pop star. So it's like there's
Literally,
like no in between, and it's kind of crazy because
yeah.
I'm like, how did I get here? Like it's just wild how like it feels like two different extremes, but at the same time, it's very purposeful. I think God
Mhm.
has put me there for a reason, but it's been really special for sure.
So that's like obviously, like you said, you're very multifaceted, I think, as an artist and as a musician, um, and as a creator as well. So can you just talk about that experience a little bit more and what it's like working on building someone else's vision?
Yeah, I think it's the best. Like a lot of times we think we find our own vision, our own sound, in ourselves, but a lot of times when I am just working on that, I get stuck, you know, and it could take me longer to figure out what I want. But I think in building others' visions, I'm still using the same muscle of creating, of singing, of performing. But in that kind of position, I don't have the same kind of pressure when I'm the one in the front. So I'm refining something, I'm perfecting something, but at the same time I'm helping someone else. And I feel like you build bridges, you build connection, relationship, and then you start feeling like, wow, this industry is so much bigger than me. But that's not something that's meant to intimidate me, but meant to inspire me, that I'm a small part of something greater than just myself. Because we're so like limited and you know, the opposite of infinite, which is, I guess, finite, infinitos, finitos. Wow, my Latina came out. But we're the opposite of eternal. You know, we're just here for a time, but we want our music, our legacy to be more than to outlive us. You know what I mean? More than just our lifespan. And so for me, working with other people is a way to leave a mark in the industry and like not just work on my own thing but build those relationships. And I think that makes my thing go further too, because at the end of the day it's like we're all joining hands, and I think that's very special.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's I think it takes a certain kind of person to do like servant leadership and like honor, like it's like the law of honor. So as you honor someone else, God honors your vision and brings the right people to you in turn. So and you can see that. So I think, you know, it's very commendable. Um and I also just want to talk about your music and the impact that it's having. Like how does it feel to know that you're making music that not just resonates with people but also honors God and honors your walk with God, and it's full of faith and encouragement, and just putting that out in the world? What is that like?
It's what gives life and meaning to everything I do. I think it's like very easy to get lost in the moment of creating all these things, and sometimes even being stressed or overwhelmed, because even though I love it, there's so much sacrifice and commitment and hard times where you don't feel like songwriting, you don't feel like singing, you don't feel like showing up. But man, we have to show up. You know what I mean? Like regardless of how we're feeling, like God is strong in our weakness. And I've seen how he's honored that commitment. And, you know, once it's out there, it's like I saw the process and I saw the things that people didn't see. And now you get to witness how other people connect with that and why it was important. You went through all of these things to get here now and put this into the world, because that moment is also very vulnerable because you don't know how it's going to be received. It's not all, you know, compliments. Thankfully I have a really really amazing fan base and I love like all of the people that follow me and support me, but I get a lot of comments that aren't very encouraging and I have to block it off. I have to be intentional to like put it aside, leave it on red, or try not to read it, and just keep, you know, having tunnel vision and moving forward. And I think that keeps you focused, because it could be, you can be discouraged and give up real quick. But I've learned that, you know, the people that are in this for the long run are the ones that are willing and able to commit and to really just, you know, lay down the roots. And I feel like that's what we're doing right now. We're like laying down the roots, laying down the foundation, breaking some paradigms and some taking some risks as Christian artists as well, because it doesn't feel conventional to work with Elevation Worship but also to work with Becky G. But I think that's how it should be. I think that's where like I genuinely and honestly feel that God has called me to be. So I'm happy because I know God is okay with that, and he's put me there for a reason. So yeah, it's very rewarding, it's very hard, but it's worth it.
I love that. So even I was talking to Tommy yesterday about bridging the gaps between culture and faith, and again I think it's something our generation's doing. So can you speak more to that and just about how you've seen God's hand move to kind of guide you in that, and how you navigate that?
Yeah, I think when I go to events or when I'm, you know, even in a very mainstream environment and I go to festivals, or I see how much music moves culture. Like people will sing like Becky G's, one of her biggest songs, Shower, right? And I see people like singing like singing in the shower, la da dee, la da da, la da da. And they're just like yelling this. And I'm like, wow, like it's very moving and it's very powerful, you know? And I want to be able to put just like a song in people's mouths that they can sing in that way, and that it can really transform their way of thinking of God, the way they perceive themselves, that it would just point them back to Jesus. I think we have the power of doing that with music in a very meaningful way, and we do it because we never compromise our message, our faith. You know, it's like it doesn't matter where I am, I'm the same person, and that's the thing. Like whether I'm, you know, working on a worship project or I'm working at a music festival in New York. I was at Governor's Ball, like a really big music festival, and we were working on I worked on a commercial this year for a big brand called Real California Milk. Like literally such random things. I did like an animation, like Christmas kids program, and I was like a little animated character singing Christmas songs. And everywhere I went, it was just like, you know what? It all looks different, but at the end of the day, it's all the same spirit. It's the same message that we want to send. And I think it's just one of those things that if you kind of start breaking down the walls of like, this is Christian and this is secular, I think more and more we can just make everything we do a sacred thing that is for the glory of God. And it could really come through to people in that way. And I could say that I've seen that so vividly everywhere I've gone because I've stayed true to that. You know, I just think you need to be a person of conviction and knowing your calling, knowing your place, and then you can walk in that freedom of like building that, bridging that gap basically of like faith and culture, and integrating that in everything you do.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you spoke beautifully to the importance of knowing your calling and purpose, and how that then doesn't sway you when you're in those environments because you know your why. So you seem like someone who knows their purpose, knows their calling, has that deep conviction, and isn't moved or changed by their environment. So, like you said, you're the same person in a festival as you are in a church. And do you have any advice for people who might be struggling to identify maybe like a faith calling, a purpose?
Mm-hmm. It took me a long time to get here. I'm not gonna lie, like I feel like I've always had the potential of being a leader, but I was a follower for a long time before I found my voice as a leader, because I think we all have the desire to please people or to have a good, you know, rep, and that's not a bad thing, but it can become unhealthy when that's what moves us. When we're moved by that, like we'll never have stability in our lives. Like I would say take some time to figure out what your conviction is. If you grew up in a Christian home, um, do you believe it because it's your parents' faith, your grandparents' faith, because you've been in ministry your whole life, or is it your personal conviction? Because if it's not your personal conviction, the moment you're moved from that environment, you're gonna be shaken and you're gonna morph into something else that you never nurtured for yourself. But if you weren't raised in a Christian home and maybe your environment is telling you this is how you should be, or this is what you should do, or this is how you should dress, like I think in both contexts you can be told this, like served to you, and it's easy to maybe take that on because now you're liked and it's easy, but then you become a slave. You become just like kind of in bondage of what other people think or what other people are telling you. And I think the beginning to freedom is letting go of fear of man, is fearing God above all things, is saying, you know, not everybody's going to like this, but I'm going to keep putting my best foot forward and doing what I know I'm called to do, nurturing my own faith, understanding my conviction, understanding my identity. I think that's also like crucial. It's like letting go of fear of man, solidifying your identity in Christ and like who you are, and then just moving forward and not being afraid of making mistakes. I think that's the biggest thing too, that we're so used to the do's and don'ts. This is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. And then you feel like you need to do something, but you're like, but that's in the don't list. But it's like you just need to live your journey. Your journey is not the same from everybody else's, and we're trying to find references and who we can imitate. And it's not a bad thing to have people that influence or inspire you, but your journey is completely different. So you need to walk the path uncharted, like that is how you break open a way that hasn't been paved, so
Mm.
that other people can join into that and make a way as well for other people. I think that's how we just like kind of change the world in a way, when we understand and own who we are and walk that out without fear of failing or without fear of disappointing. But we're just like authentically and honestly ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. Everything you said is like you're back preaching. So I love it.
Don't get me started.
Yeah. So I just feel like you're someone of great faith. So could you just talk a little bit more about like your journey of faith and just how that's evolved and what it means to you too?
Yeah, I think the more I've been able, and I've kind of spoken to it already, but the
Mm-hmm.
more I've been able to figure out my own faith. I did grow up in a Christian home, and I went to like basically Bible college. I studied music, but it was very like Bible faith based. So like I feel like I went from like one bubble to another bubble like my whole life. Like I've always been in Christian circles, and it's been awesome because it's really like formed me and shaped me to love God even more and to have a heart for the church. Um, but I have also grown into having a heart for the world, the people that weren't raised the same, that weren't um, privileged to maybe receive the same things, but they also have their journey and they also have something to bring to the world too. So to me, it's the key has been to kind of bring God and invite the Holy Spirit into every space, like what I was talking about, kind of making that sacred, um, and not limiting His presence and my friendship and communion with Him to a church gathering or a conference or a space, Bible college or this. Now I'm like in a different environment. I'm in LA where it's very saturated with a bunch
Yeah.
of culture and beliefs and walks of life, and it's easy to lose yourself if you don't know who you are. But I think just being open-minded to understanding that like even in the places where we least expect it, God can move and He can use your life to bring light and love. And I think just being able to get out of those boxes has helped me a lot. And just like it's just that, like, invite God everywhere you are, whether you're driving, whether you're grocery shopping, whether you're having coffee with a friend. Like I've had literal moments where I'll be sitting down with Becky G and we'll be talking and I'll literally get chills from our conversation and feel God's presence because there's something special in our conversation. And I know it's because we're both open to that moment. And it's a beautiful thing because it doesn't only have to happen in a Christian environment. It's like everything as is as unto God for me. And I think that's been very, very crucial and key
Yeah.
in my walk of faith.
Yeah. You bring God where you are. You're the example of Jesus, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Well,
And
thank you.
do you have any suggested like resources? Like, what is some of your favorite books, podcasts? I always ask people this. I'm always intrigued. Favorite Christian artists that people could look into?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things to do is like, I know this is like kind of basic, but I love doing plans on the YouVersion app. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just very simple. And right now I'm so excited because I'm actually working on a plan for the app. And it's like a 3-day plan
That's so cool.
for, it's kind of connected to RDV. RDV means reason to live in Spanish, razón de vivir. And it's basically, a 3-day journey of like why your life is important and what you have in your hands is of value and you have a reason to live. And so I'm working on that because it's been very effective and like practical for me to just pick up my Bible app and, just like pick a plan and read the Bible. And it's pretty straightforward. But outside of that, I don't know. I love this morning and evening book by Charles Spurgeon, I think is his name. I might be butchering his name, but it's a book and it's like a morning and evening thing. So I'll read that as well, like a verse and a reflection in the morning, and then in the evening. I also, and this is like not a advertisement, but my husband Abraham Osorio, he's also an artist, and he puts out these instrumental albums where it's just like very peaceful, and he just makes it very intentionally in prayer and through scripture, just like, but it's just music, and it creates this beautiful, very sacred space. So I a lot of times just, instead of picking up a book or a plan or trying to do something, which I think is also amazing for me and my like crazy anxious thoughts. I think sometimes I just need that space, and that music just helps me to connect with God and sit there and be with him and kind of hear from God and be in this prayerful spirit, you know. So that album has helped me a lot. It's called Devocionales. And it's based, he makes different volumes. Right now there's 2 volumes out. He's working on a 3rd volume. So that's been a really good resource for me as well.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And my final question that I ask this to everyone who comes on. This is a platform just to put it out into the world that you'd like to share. Is there anyone that you'd like to collaborate with? Like your dream collaboration, secular, Christian, Spanish, English, anything.
Yeah, this is out there, but there's an artist called Camilo, and I've always loved him because he makes like the cutest, like most beautiful songs, like, and he's a Spanish artist from Colombia. But I would actually love to collaborate with him because he also has like a whole faith journey, and like I love what he stands for, but he does his music and his ministry in a non-conventional way, and I really appreciate like his authenticity and the way he like puts God's name high. Like anywhere he stands, he's just like very proud, like to be, you know, a believer, but also is making music and videos, and his brand is amazing. He's married, and I don't know, I could just visualize a really dope collaboration with him. So, but that, I think that's a out there dream for sure.
Well, it's out there now, so we'll see what happens.
Putting it out there.
Out there, and then I can take credit when it happens.
You can. I give you that permission, Hannah.
Thank you. And do you have anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners? Anything that we've not discussed that you'd like to promo, or just anything as a word of encouragement?
Yeah, I would just say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening. I know we've gone a little longer, but I think it's really important to take time to talk about journeys and processes, because I think what you see maybe of the artists or people that are on this these interviews is like you see the final product, you know, and it looks very pretty and all those things, but like there's a lot of things that are unseen, and it's like you see 20% of it, you know, but the other 80% is a lot of hardship and a lot of wrestling with yourself and figuring out kind of like how to navigate fears, insecurities, uncertainties. And I think that goes for everybody. So if I have any encouragement, is like don't be afraid of committing to the process, because faithfulness will always bear fruit. So don't give up, you know, and if there's any time to keep pushing forward, keep pushing it. It's now. Take risks, don't be afraid. And I think, you know, if you needed to hear this today, I believe in you. Like I believe in what God has placed in your life, and most importantly, like God believes in you, and everything that is within you is on purpose. So put it out into the world, and yeah, don't be afraid. I think that's the biggest advice I give to myself all the time. So I just want to encourage you with that.
Thank you so much for your time. It was lovely speaking with you.
Thank you so much, Hannah. I look forward to seeing this interview, and thank you for having me.
Of course.